Greetings, Louis, and welcome to another video. So, what you're going to see in the screen is going to be a little bit overbearing. Like, you're going to be very, very confused if you don't hear any context behind what I'm going to be explaining right now. So, I am going to put a timestamp and I am going to be uh, elaborating each side of the spectrum because today I kind of wanted to talk about a few trends that I've been noticing that has been happening in this format, and I arrived at the conclusion that there are two key cards this format that will give you a very huge competitive edge if you know what you're doing and if you're facing a meta game very similar to what I'm showing on the screen. So it's been roughly around 3 weeks since the start of the new format. A lot of people are still like elaborating on what strategies are going to be very ideal for the game. Maze of the Millennia just got released, which is going to be a set that's going to be helping a few strategies outright while bolstering a little bit for others, and is going to give very good competitive edge once Phantom Nightmare gets released. So I'm going to start with talking about the top side first, and a common trend that we have with all the decks that are in the top, and then I'm going to explain a tech card that is very very strong, like against everything on the top side, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom side. Take note, Pot of Prosperity is here in the middle. It should not be Preventer. It should be like some other card, most likely. Uh, but and I also don't have the function. Dueling Book doesn't have a function for put cards on your opponent's side. So pretend these banished cards are part of the top side. Uh, but yeah, uh, let's begin. So all these cards that are on the top side are cards that have been seen competitive success throughout these 3 weeks in this new format. Runic variants have been topping a few events. It could be with Bystials, it could be with Orcust, it could be like Runic Stun, it could be like a Runic hybrid of another fusion deck. Uh, like I've even seen Runic Kashtira at one point. But runic variants are to be respected this format, and they should not be overlooked by any means. Another deck that has been rising in popularity is Orcust. The unbanning of Hardcore just made a lot of people's like thirsty for nostalgia. The Horus engine is an engine that really, really benefits this archetype. And despite us only having one copy of Hardcore, we have 3 copies of Girsu, the Orcus Magnite, which is a card that really helps the strategy and makes it just as powerful as it was before the banning of Hardcore. Runic Bestial variants have been seen. Bestials have been seen as an engine as well. It could be an engine in the Orcus deck. It could be an engine in the Runic deck. You can pair it with Branded. That's why you see the Albion over here. And pretty much like uh, Dragon Link is not super popular right now, but it's also a deck that can benefit from Bystials, and it's a deck that should still be like respected in the format. Uh, Kashtira has been seen very successfully, like throughout regionals. There's one player named Luke Tyler who has went undefeated 2 weeks in a row with Kashtira. We've seen Kashtira actually doing well at events. I think Kashtira in this format that we're at right now is at its peak. once we have a more established metagame, like for example post Phantom Nightmare, we might see a decline of Kashtira, but at the current moment right now, Kashtira is a really good stun strategy. Rescue Ace has been seen very successful, like showing as well. Like it has won and topped a couple of regionals as well. I think the limitation of Airlifter hurt the consistency, but not by a large margin. Like the Sinful Spoils engine is still being played, is still a way of like getting to your win condition like more stronger than not. The only thing that changed with Rescue Ace post ban list is that it's a little bit weaker to hand traps, and it does have more choke points. Also, the banning of Isolde really changed a bit for Rescue Ace as well because it made it so it has less stronger end boards involving like other cards, like for example making Baron plus SP, like with Ricardetto. But that's not to say that Rescue Ace is not being seen play. Rescue Ace is very, very competitive right now. I already spoke about branded and its variants. Like you can mix it with Bystials, you can mix it with Chimera, or you can mix it like in other ways. So, what do all of these archetype have in common? Like, what are all these decks that are doing very, very successful this format are doing right now? They just share one common entity. The common entity that all they share is that they all revolve around banishing cards, which means that the first key card that we're going to talk about is Artifact Lancia. Artifact Lancia is a really, really strong hand trap right now. I feel like against certain matchups that are just being seen very successfully competitive play, this card can just be a blowout against the Orcust and Runic decks or the Orcust Runic hybrid. If you activate Lancia and you resolve it, you outright just almost skip their entire turn. Basically, like you're taking away their ability to resource loop with their cards. You have the ability, they lose the ability to just get to their engine consistently, and not only that, you're protecting yourself from like other cards as well. I didn't put these cards here, but cards that we can mention are Cosmic Cyclone, Evenly Mashed, Pot of Prosperity applies here as well. Like right now, in that metagame that we're seeing at the moment, Artifact Lancia is very, very justified as a side deck option. Outside of these decks that I'm just mentioning right now, but there are other strategies where you can just fit in Lancia and it can do well. Like the more roguish strategies, for example, Floowandereeze. Just to give one example. Another thing that Lancia helps against, and the reason I'm pretty much bringing up Rescue Ace is you cannot summon Preventer from the hand. You cannot summon Turbulence from the hand. You cannot Prosperity. If you have this Sinful Spoils engine, you cannot use Wanted's effect to recycle and draw. You cannot use the rescue spell and traps to banish themselves from the graveyard to recoup back your resources. Another thing that's important is that deck plays multiple copies of SP Little Knight, so they cannot summon SP Little Knight to out anything that you have. They cannot beat you down with Access Code Talker. I did not bring up the Vanadium strategy. I don't think the Vanadium strategy is that popular compared to the other decks. But any deck that can summon Visas Astrolaud, Lancia is also really strong against because most decks like Vanadium, they rely on Vicious Astrolaud with Cross Ship in order to do very successful end boards. If you take that ability away from them, not only are you taking away their ability to just like mass combo, but you're also taking away their ability of like uh, trying to overextend over other interruptions that you have, whether you go first or second. I already brought up Runicks and how strong that card is against Runicks in general. I think I already brought up Bystials and how Bystials are very popular right now, and Lancia just shuts down the ability for Bystials to be summoned. Take note that the Bystials are quick effects, so they can play around Lancia. However, if you're clever enough with Lancia and you know that they're playing Bystials in their deck, you can just hold Lancia and wait for them to attempt to summon them and just stop them with Lancia. I showed Albion specifically because not every line with Branded Fusion goes into Lubellion. Some of them do go to Albion, and just shutting down Albion and its ability to just summon another fusion is really strong. It also shuts down Mirror Jade and its ability to banish a card. So that's another note. So overall, Artifact Lancia is really, really strong right now. Uh, and you should really, really consider it in your side deck if you do have the chance. Now let's talk about the bottom side. uh, Unchained has been seeing a lot of successful showing throughout regionals. The Diabell Star package is very like no brainer in the Rescue Ace strategy, and any strategy that can play the Black Witch will just play it. Post Phantom Nightmare, this is going to be even more relevant because it's basically more copies of your Snake Eye engine. We can mention Snake Eye like as well. I'm also going to bring up Fire Kings. Like Fire Kings is not like the most competitive deck by any means, but Post Phantom Nightmare is going to be very very successful, and this deck is actually seeing some level of competitive success at the moment. Labrynth is a deck that everybody is like clamoring for, especially with the release of Transaction Rollback in Maze of Millennia. So this is another strategy that people are going to be leaning towards too. Purely, despite the hit to Sleepy Memory to 2, is still a very, very viable strategy. It still can do super well competitively, and like I wouldn't be surprised if in the next upcoming month or so, like you see more from Purely than not. Sprite is not as popular as Purely or as Labrynth or as Unchained, but with the unlimitation of Sprite Starter did like bring an air of relief towards Sprite players, and it made them try to contest the strategy, and we've been seeing them at least top one or two regionals. So now that I brought up all those other strategies, let's talk about the second card. The second card that I'm going to show is also really, really impactful. It's also really underrated. And the card I'm talking about is Deck Lockdown. So, Deck Lockdown is a really, really old card. I think it came out in, like, I don't try to remember the set name. Light of Destruction. Like, and that card reads, neither player can add cards from their deck to your hand, except by drawing them. Monsters cannot be special summoned from the main deck. Destroy this card during your second standby phase after activation. So essentially, what this means is very similar to Mistake or like Mistaken Arrest or Draw and Lockbird. Neither player can add from their deck to their hand, which is already really powerful in itself. Like you shut down a numerous amount of strategies that way. You also can shut down the runic decks. You also shut down Prosperity with this. You shut down the Kashtira deck. Just to name like one or two. Uh, Not being able to special summon from the deck is a very, very, very big deal. It shuts down the entire purely deck. At least all the memories cannot be triggered under deck lockdown. Well, they can be triggered as long as you can fulfill the first effect, but they cannot do the discard effect. Unchained also heavily struggles from this because their main track cards and monsters all spawn other monsters from the deck. That deck was not weak to Mistaken Arrest and was not weak to Draw a Lockbird. However, it is weak to deck lockdown because you're shutting down one of their main ways of actually like progressing through their strategy. The Diabellstar engine also gets hurt by this because you cannot original simple spell Snake Eye like to summon from the deck. This also hurts Fire Kings really really hard. Like it shuts down Fire King Island, it shuts down the Ponyx, just to name like one or two key cards. This also shuts down Labrynth because they cannot welcome to summon from the deck, and they can only activate Big Welcome to summon from the hand or the graveyard, which makes this card very, very, very awkward for your opponent to like use under the conditions of deck lockdown. It also shuts down Emergency, which is very strong in the Rescue Ace deck. It shuts down Hydrant, as well. So basically, with the activation of deck lockdown alongside Artifact Lancia, you're pretty much shutting down entirely the Rescue Ace deck. Like, so yeah, I felt like just bringing up these two cards because I feel like if your deck can play these two cards in your strategy, you should really, really look into it. These cards are very, very powerful, and the way I'm looking at trends and I'm looking at how some decks are being played right now and how some people have a keen eye for the popular choices that are being teched in throughout this format. I feel like all these decks that I show on the screen, alongside few others that are not being shown on the screen, that really fold to these two cards, are strategies that people are looking into. I'm going to do a deck report, at the very end of the week. There is one strategy that I'm playing right now, and it's a strategy that doesn't lose to neither deck lockdown nor artifact Lancia. I want you to guess in the comments what deck that is, uh, and see who gets it right before the next video. Also, one last note: if you're watching this, I am doing a giveaway because I reached 300 subscribers. Originally, it was going to be until the 18th, but I extended it through the 21st. So feel free to check it out. Uh, and who knows, maybe I'll do something else for whoever guesses right which deck I'm playing by the next video release. Also, whoever, like, I know I have some viewers that already know what I'm playing. You guys don't count. Uh, but until then, keep practicing and keep dueling.